Welcome back to the Exchange Podcast. Hey, y'all.
So happy to be here.
So happy to be here.
Yes, absolutely.
I know. I haven't seen you in a while.
I know.
I
I know
know,
you have,
right?
but not really.
I mean, I haven't
not
seen-
under this space.
I was about to say, I haven't seen
I
you in this
missed the
space.
exchange. I haven't exchanged in like some weeks now.
Yeah, we had our own exchange that we always do.
Oh, that's every day. Sorry.
And they know, I know everybody who listens to this by now know who we got on the podcast tonight.
Hi, everybody.
Amberita.
The most chocolate Mexican you'll ever meet.
Dixon got her in the building. You came to help me wrap up mental health awareness.
Yes, I did.
And tonight, what are we talking about?
I don't know. It's a heavy topic.
It's a heavy topic.
It's a heavy topic.
This has been a heavy month.
So May is always heavy for me.
Yeah, it's been a heavy, and well, that's part of why you're here. But it's been a heavy month, but not like a heavy light month. I think we talked about some heavy things. But I would say I'm freer in them, and I'm hoping that tonight, as we approach grief, that we both leave here lighter.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
we always leave.
we
each other
always
lighter.
leave lighter, and we leave better. So
Then we come back like, I got more.
I got more to say. I got more to say. But I really wanted to talk about grief for a number of reasons. I know that we're celebrating your mom's birthday.
Yes,
Today.
Excuse me, February. We're in my May 25th. It's my mommy's birthday. Shout out to my mom. I'm wearing an S necklace too in her honor.
Yeah. So happy heavenly birthday to her.
Yes,
And,
thank you. It's a celebration. My
it
term
is.
for everything now is just more life.
Yeah.
Not that. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I think you know what you said something that just now that just sparked something for me. It's like really understanding life and death, and really, I think for me, I always tell you this that my dad's death and me losing my dad made me appreciate life in a different way.
Me too.
And I don't think I think there's instances that or things that happen in life that change us, and that's one that changed my life in a way that I can't explain, and so
Definitely.
much for it's weird because it's like so much for the good.
Yeah. And people don't, when I say that, that's always like a strange thing people associate. Like for me, my mom's death is going on 6 years. And I always tell people that it's crazy, but my mom's death birthed my purpose.
Yeah, mine too. I
feel
get
like
it.
she was the sacrifice for more life for me.
Yeah.
Not to say that when she wasn't here, I wasn't living. I definitely was living.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It definitely changed me. A lot of great things. Some may not so great.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of balance in it.
I think so too. I think so too.
I mean, yeah, it's a lot of balance in it. I was actually having a conversation today with someone, and I told them that, because they reached out to me to say, I'm sending you kindness and love and hugs, and I definitely appreciate that. I always have a heart and openness for that. But I told her, I said, to be honest, I thank God that I was afforded that level of love in a lifetime.
Wow.
And I told her that because, like, her mom's alive, and I love her mother, and I love that family. And I always tell them, like, because her mom's spirit reminds me a lot of my mom's spirit. And I tell her, like, just appreciate your mom. Like, some people will never in a lifetime experience that level of love.
Wow.
And that alone for me is what keeps me humble. It keeps me appreciative and thankful that I got to experience my mom.
Yeah. I think.
And my mom, and some people are like, oh, gone too soon. My mom died at 57.
Yeah, that's really soon.
That's young.
It's young.
It's young, but I look at life differently because it's not the time that you're here, is what you do with it.
I know. Because this, you know what? There's so many people who get 70, 80 years and don't accomplish.
They be the meanest. I be like, them mean people be living forever.
Or
the good
don't-
die young.
don't accomplish or touch as many people as somebody who leaves here early. And I always say that, and I'm tearing up because it makes me cry, not in a sad way, but it's like the good students go home early.
Yeah.
You know, that term in school, that was always that. You know, my dad died at 72, but I never felt like he got to live for him.
Yes.
And I made this promise to him on his deathbed that I would be the person that he lived through.
Yeah.
And in everything that I do, even this, like, it's so much of him. Like, I couldn't say that I would be doing what I'm doing now without watching him leave here.
It forces it forces us into a life of intention. Some, yeah.
Some.
I'm saying us, because I know you a lot.
Yeah,
well,
a lot.
I know you well. It forced me personally into a life of intention. I'm no longer concerned with how long I'm here. I'm concerned with the time that I use, how many people I touch, how many people I bless, how many people, what they leave from me. And again, I'm not responsible for everybody feeling great encountering me, but I'm responsible enough that ultimately I feel good about where I am, what I do. That's how I started my business. My mom, you know what I'm saying? My mom passed away from cancer. My life's goal is to teach women, and not just women, everyone, but especially a heart for women and Black women, especially that, you know, we put so many things before ourselves. We know when dad, mom, kids, everybody has to do things, but we don't take and carve that time out for ourselves. So I know I love people. I love my children deeply, but I literally, my mom's death taught me that you have to put yourself first in order to love on other people. Yeah,
I think they give this advice like on the plane, you know, put your mask on first. And it's a life lesson in that if you're not good, nobody around you can be. And I think in that, my dad was one of those people too. He was a super duper provider. He really, you know what I mean? I felt like he gave up in a lot of ways, his own life, thinking that he would have the time to retire, the time to go fishing, the time to do things that he never got a chance to do. And losing him really gave me an eye-opening experience in the sense of, I was like, wow, he's me. Or I'm him, right? I saw myself in, you know, single mom. Everything was focused around the kids. And not, like you said, not that you're not supposed to love your children deeply, not that you're not supposed to sacrifice for them, but you're not supposed to sacrifice everything for them. That when it was time for him to probably do the things that he wanted to do, he couldn't. And that was my hardest thing. But I thank God that I had the opportunity. I had 18 months with my dad.
I did too. My mom was a year and 4 months from the time she got diagnosed.
From the time he got diagnosed, 18 months. So I got 18 months to get to know my dad, not just as dad, not as a parent, but I got to know the person.
Yes.
And I wouldn't give it up for the world. I know that sounds so kind of ironic a little bit. No, I understand. In watching him leave here, there was such a deep connection that I had with him, because we talked about stuff that I think we would have never got the opportunity, because everybody doesn't get that opportunity to know that somebody's going to leave here, right? And spend that time, and was able to, you know, I was consultant at the time, so I could like go with him to chemo, take him to chemo and radiation and spend time with him. Maybe not in the place.
It's a more focused attention.
Yeah, it was a huge intention. But like you said, that experience birthed a lot of things in me. And I want to really talk about grief, and I want to bring that full circle, because I think for me initially, I was so after I lost him, I was so busy. How could I say this? Being him.
That you were losing you.
That I lost me. So I felt responsible for everything. My mom, the house, everything. I felt so responsible that I didn't have an opportunity to grieve. It was like, okay, I know he's going. I know what his wishes are. Got to handle the funeral. Got to write the obituary. Got to make sure this is this. Got to make sure my mom is good. It was just a laundry list of stuff, and I wasn't on it. And I would say to the listeners, I had this exercise in class and I'll never forget it. It was like, write everyone that you're responsible for on a piece of paper. And everybody in class, probably, I don't know, maybe about 30 people in class, nobody had themselves on the list. And I was like, dang, I really have to get it together. Like I had
but you know what?
a breakdown of that. Go ahead.
You know what I want to say, though? There's no timeline for grief, though.
So there's not.
Yeah, like, so, I mean...
There are stages, though.
I definitely can relate to that with trying to almost replace the person that's missing. Because I think sometimes God may give you a certain level of strength that some people are more outward. They're broken down. They can't stop crying. They can't get out of bed. They're more expressive in that area.
Yeah. Grief looks different on everybody.
It does. Me, I shed a tear or two at my mom's funeral. I always felt at peace with my mom's death because I honor her the whole time she was on earth, and from the time she got really sick until she passed, like I was right by her side. So I didn't leave with any regret. Well, she didn't leave with... I didn't have regrets as she left. Yeah. And I don't think my dad and my brother probably didn't either. But what I was going to say is that I did too spend time trying to replace who my mom was to everybody. But that's number one, not my job. And I can't because that was what she was here to do. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Not your assignment. And, grief doesn't always show up immediately. I can definitely attest to that. I think like when my mom passed away and it just showed up for me in a very different way. It actually led me to severe detachment issues.
How so?
How so? To the fact that, so it works in good and bad ways. I've been to therapy about it and everything, but it's in my mind, I live life without the greatest person I've ever known, right? The closest person to me. So it's nothing for me. I mean, nothing for me to live with people who don't make me feel my best self. My mom did that. Like, you get what I'm saying? Yeah. Not nobody could come in and obviously take her place, but that's a hard thing to do, to live life without your best friend. Yeah. I don't say because some people be like, oh, my mom's my best friend. Nah, like this was really my best friend. Like, you get what I'm saying? Yeah. The person I confide into, something exciting happens, something funny happens, whatever that is. This is somebody I spoke on the phone to 3 to 10 times a day. Like, you get what I'm saying? So that was a level of pattern broken for me. My friend is gone and my children's grandmother's gone. You know what I'm saying? Like, that level of support was all built in one person. And so to have something that severe just, taken away from me, it will lead you to detachment issues. It caused me to have issues in my marriage when now I'm divorced. It just caused me to I disconnect easily. Again, not always in the worst way. Gotcha. But sometimes I may have hurt people who may have been even good for me, because I'm just not at that place. Like, I don't feel, I don't know. Like, I really have no feeling toward disconnecting with people.
I understand that to an extent.
My therapist said, though, it's not a horrible thing. She said, when you're...
I don't think so either.
Because it actually built wisdom, because honestly, when my mom left, I was always the person that give people 1,000 million trillion chances. You are a chance giver. I'm not a chance giver like that. But not to let other people tell her I ain't a chance giver. But, my mom used to kind of be like that too, where she just allows so many things, and those are things that I was trying to change about me, so I could really say that I lived a full life that I don't like. Sometimes I really don't like the word boundaries, only because I feel like boundaries and walls get crossed, but I don't want to put so many walls up towards people and have all of these boundaries, but it did teach me a level of appreciation of me and less dependency. It made me extremely independent. Like, I don't like to ask people for things.
And no, I never did.
Because I didn't feel, the only person I really felt safe with to do that at all times was my mother. Not even there's literally nobody on earth that I have ever felt that comfortable with asking for anything.
So that's what I was going to ask you. So for me, my dad was my parent. And let me explain what I mean. So of course we get 2 parents, right? But whether people say it or not, I just feel like, everybody knows who dad's favorite is and everybody knows who mom's favorite is, right?
I was mommy's favorite. Yeah. So if you're listening, mommy liked me more.
But no, it's a real thing. So my mom, I had that feeling too and went through something similar because I felt like my parent, of course my parent, but my person left. Yeah. So my mom and my brother are like this, right? They have secret stuff and just, you know what I mean? They just that's always been there
of their relationship.
Their relationship, and there's no jealousy in between that because I always had my dad. So I lost the person that would call me, are you okay? Are you okay? You know what I mean? Who really like saw me? Because
who was you?
Yeah, it was like
you treating you like you, right?
Yeah, like it was kind of even though I have this in the family, like Deb's good, my dad was the one person that knew when I wasn't good, knew to check up on me no matter how much it was like, okay, daddy, you know what I mean? So I lost that person that was going to call every Saturday morning before the crack of dawn to see if I'm coming over on Sunday when you know I'm coming over on Sunday unless there's something. So I lost that person. I also lost, like you said, I lost the person that I felt like in any situation I could come to and be like, hey, I need help. Yeah. And that would really help or had the ability to help in some form or fashion. So it was definitely for me.
I want to touch on that. Something you just said. Yeah. How you just said that he was the person that you could go to and stuff like that. Do you feel like that blindsided you to other people around you?
I don't.
It did for me in marriage because I'll express what that did for me because we're talking about grief and the different forms and how it looks, right? So because my mom was so like up here there for me, it don't matter what other people did because that's the only person I get. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that. Like, not even that I wanted it from. She supplemented so many things well that even if you were a slacker, you didn't do enough. I had my mom, so I didn't focus so much on what it is that you brought. So that's ended up that honestly, that's what happened to me in marriage, and I ended up like having a deeper eye. And again, there's no love lost between me and my ex-husband, but that's what kind of made me see.
Look different.
Like, wow, mommy,
lens.
You were so there for me to the point that I ignored characteristics about other people who were so close to me, right? And now that you're not here to like kind of substitute right? Like I had a best friend that I thought was my best friend until my best friend really left. You know what I mean? So it was kind of like I kind of put a lot of the things you did aside because I always had this person, no matter what the world did, I can go to them. So that's why I said, like, when you were saying, I'm like, wow, like that's exactly kind of like what happened to me. And and people started dropping like flies in my life.
Yeah. So I will say, I don't think I had that with my dad only because I think I had the lens of people around me who weren't doing those things. Like I always say, for me, my dad was a lot of things, and he definitely wasn't perfect, right?
Okay. That's nobody is.
No. But the stability that he provided, the provider that he was, like it took me 2 years after my dad died, don't laugh listeners, to get my car like detailed because my dad did those types of things for me, right? And I had never had in any relationship really had someone who did that.
Telling you was blindsided.
Yeah, but I don't think I was blindsided because I was aware of it. I think what you said is true though. I think after my dad's death, when the dust settled, I ended a long relationship because I was like, it doesn't serve me. And I wasn't.
It focuses you. Yeah. It gives you like a brighter focus on other people.
Yeah,
like,
I was like,
oh, I don't even like you like that.
It wasn't that. It was just like, I was like, this relationship doesn't give me anything that I really want going forward. And like, kind of what, in a relationship, there should be an exchange, right? There should be
always an exchange.
Something that you get from someone else. So when the dust settled with my dad, maybe I did have a different lens. And not that I ever thought that was ever there, but it definitely was clearer that wasn't something or where I wanted to be, you know what I mean? Going forward and where I wanted to go. I was like,
I definitely, like, so much happened with that. Like, I like we talked about when you talk about grief, like, I know, like, before my mom left, I was a, stable person mentally, all of that stuff. When she left, it just started really digging at areas that I was not good in. Like, I was not strong in. Like, I have major detachment issues.
Wow. Well, at least
like,
you know that.
Yeah,
so
I do know that. I'm very aware of it. Like, I can be hot and cold. Like, I can be sunshine and night time. Okay. And it's not intentional. Like, sometimes, like, I had to go to therapy. Like, and when I went to therapy, I did not initially go to therapy about grief. I didn't. No, I did not. I went to therapy because my marriage was so horrible. Like, I was in a horrible phase of my marriage.
Yeah.
I refused marital counseling even. I just needed individual counseling because I knew
trying to figure out what
I was trying to figure out what was going on with me.
Yeah.
Why was I behaving in certain ways? Why was I so cold-hearted? Why didn't I care like anymore? Why didn't like I know I love people and like it just drove me into a area that it was really dark. It was very dark. I like hurting people, not intentionally, but just like
protecting yourself,
protecting myself, being just cold. Like, I can be hot and very cold.
So I will say this. So I feel like I went through that when I lost my sister, not my dad. So my dad's death was, and I know the listeners know by now, I've experienced a lot of death very early in life. A lot of close people. My sister died in my arms when I was 12. I lost my first son. It was like my grandfather, my great-grandmother, and my sister all died within like 2 years of each other. It was just a lot for a kid, right? And then it didn't stop. So I used to have this thing where I felt like getting close to people wasn't an option, but for a different reason. And I wouldn't say it was detachment for me. There was something, and I was a kid when I lost people. So it's like anybody who I felt really close to.
You felt like you lost them.
I felt like I would lose them.
Oh, wow.
So I would like keep a nice distance between people who really tried to get close to me. So I maybe it is a part of detachment, but it looked very different. My dad's death.
That's fear, though.
Yeah. Oh, it's definitely fear. It was definitely fear coupled with not being able to grieve. And again, grief looks different for everyone.
Definitely.
I never, my parents, they can only give me what they had to give me. My mom lost several children, and my dad, you know what I mean? So I can't leave him out. And they only dealt with, with something that was really traumatic
think about it
to
back
me.
then, like mental health wasn't
therapy wasn't
even
a thing.
question, right?
It wasn't my mom, I think I mentioned this on the other show, Don't Suffer in Silence, but I remember having a conversation probably only 2-3 years ago with my mom once I started going through counseling and everything. And I was like, "You've never asked me if I was okay." And her answer to me was, "I prayed for you." And again, our parents can only give you what they have to give. And for her,
and that stems from years and years of oppression.
That's all she knew how to give me.
That's all we were oppressed and socialized to think is that church alone is the answer. And don't get me wrong, I'm a church girl.
Oh yeah, I'm a church girl. I love the Lord. However, He gives us resources. I love the Lord,
and I love my therapist.
Yes.
Okay,
because and we said this before, and I know the listeners have heard us say this, or maybe we said this talking, but there's nothing else that you would injure on yourself and not go get checked out.
I remember you said that.
You will not. You won't cut yourself and not go to the ER. You won't break a bone and not go to a doctor. Your back won't be hurting. You will go to see a specialist in that area the only thing that we kind of fall back from is mental health. And it's like, no, this is like real stuff. And when somebody leaves here, and grief doesn't just, and we're going to talk about this a little later in the show, but grief doesn't just show up when somebody dies.
No.
Your marriage, you know, when people go through divorce, there's grief. People lose jobs, there's grief. Like, we don't talk about those things. Those are traumatic things. Yeah. And if we don't do...
The death of anything is grief.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think that people think about it that way. And
I, to be honest with you, I didn't even think we would touch on that. But that's very true. Like, and you know, when you, as you say this, like, one thing in particular, like, when I owned a juice bar, right? Yeah. I owned a juice bar for 2 years. And like, I literally stayed in the juice bar until it was like over. And like my last day. And I remember that. And I remember sometimes like those memories pop up and I'll like avoid it.
But that's grief of it.
That's grief. Like I know that. Like I know. Like I mean, sometimes I'll talk about it. I think the first time I actually openly talked about it, you just recently like posted like a memory from the store because my store opening was about 2 years ago.
Yeah, and it came up because I was like, I'm so proud of you, and I was like,
I looked at it like.
You were like, this is like a hard picture for me to look at.
It was very hard for me to look at, and because I know I did so much like in there and I fought for it so hard, but it ended up not working out. But the brighter side,
it did work out though.
It did. Thank you. The better side of it is that and somebody told me a long time ago, Amber, you are the business. The business goes wherever you go. You could stand outside on a table and sell your juices. People are still going to come. People are still going to show up. People are still going to show up. But for a while, grieving and being so attached to what I thought was my success, it was hard for me to look at. And there are times that I have to tell myself like out loud and say, Amber, you lost the store. It's not here, but look what it did. It literally has opened the
look where
doors.
You are now.
Like I'm in a like. Seriously,
without rent,
the store couldn't hold me. I still got some rent, but like,
I'm talking about without rent from the store,
right? But you know, like it's like. Honestly, the store was too small now that I look at it, right? Because now, like, I could have never done, I couldn't be on your podcast. I couldn't have my own new podcast coming out if shout out to BP for Business Podcast.
Coming out 5/30
next Monday. Okay, May 31st. Step in. But no, like, that store, now that I look at it, but it took time to mourn it, right?
But that's what I'm saying. Do we mourn our losses?
Yeah, losses are mourning. That's the one.
Do we mourn our losses? No, seriously. I've had relationships that not even because it was a good relationship, right? That's the crazy thing. Yeah. You can have a bad relationship, but because you invested so much emotionally, what you've given, physically, financially, everything of you've poured into that particular thing. There is a period of mourning. There is a period of grief, even if you no longer wanted it. Yeah,
because remember, like, you was like, oh, when I was getting divorced, I was like, oh, we are not having a party.
No,
like, that's not, to me, it wasn't something to celebrate. Because unfortunately, this is my son's parents not being together. Like, you get what I'm saying? So I don't see the celebration in that. No. I do see the celebration of, obviously, new beginnings. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, for new beginnings, understanding that although that was something that died, it birthed my beautiful son. We have memories that we could tell our son about forever. It's just so many great things, but unfortunately, that had to die for both of us to live.
I was about to say, you're living, and I don't know how he's living, but I feel like, hopefully, no, I don't say that. I mean, I don't. I'm saying,
don't mind me, listeners.
What I'm saying is,
what she has said is,
No, what I'm saying is, I think sometimes we hold on to things, and not just relationships, even jobs. Like we hold on to these spaces that we are attached to, careers that we are attached to, never thinking, like, not wanting to let it go because we're not ready. That. I was about to tell you,
and I was like,
listen, here's the funny thing about that, right? So I was consulting guys at
that was a hard year. 2019 was a test of
I had gotten the job of my dreams, and not because it was the job of my dreams, and I want to explain this to the listeners, right? This job afforded me to be able to do what I wanted to do financially. It gave me an amount of money that I had never seen in my life. It gave me the flexibility to be at home working, right? It was a 5-year contract that was going to allow me to now explore exactly what you're watching and listening to now.
Yes.
Right? And I was like, this is it. Now I can do this. And even if, it only lasts 2-3 years, I would have enough money to be able to go the direction that I wanted to go.
Ha ha ha! God laughing at your plans.
Ha ha! Look at God laughing at me.
Laughing at your plans, honey.
That is not what happened, y'all. So I'm well into this job, and they bring in another consultant company, and they look at salaries. And they said, who gonna go first? It's gonna be me. And I was devastated. I had never not worked, right?
Yeah.
So never. So from the time I've been 15 years old, the only times that I have not worked, I was like pregnant on bed rest type, not working, and right back on the saddle, right back out. So I didn't even know what it looked like to not work,
and have unemployment and all of those things.
I had never been on unemployment.
Remember how awkwardly calm I was talking to you? Like, it's fine.
This girl is like,
don't worry about it.
She's like, yeah, you're fine. So the first month or two, I think I was fine mentally. I felt like, again, never not worked. Jobs come to me like this, and I don't mean no like little itsy. I'm talking about
that money,
jobs, like jobs. I'm talking about like what, like when you read the contract, I'm like, say what? Oh, what? Like, I'm gonna tell you a funny story about my dad. My dad, the first job I got in the city, I go to my dad to tell him how much, and he's like, look, this is his face in shock because he's old school. He'd worked at his job 40-something years. He's like, they gonna pay you to do what exactly are you gonna be doing?
You're gonna be doing drugs.
Like, I know. What are you thinking? What are you stripping or something? I don't know what he was thinking. But he called me every single day for 3 months when I started that job because he could not believe that they were paying me. So I'm talking jobs. So the first 2 months, I was like, cool. I'm good. Till it got like to the 3rd month when it's like rent. And, again, I'm single mom, supporting 2 children. I'm like,
you have a certain lifestyle that you live. I have a lifestyle that I live.
That wasn't really it. I'm like, okay, now I'm starting to calculate.
This ain't adding up.
Okay, I got the money, but there's nothing else coming in.
Yeah, what did I say to you?
And you were like, no, you gonna be good. No, you was trying to walk me through. You was trying to. She was trying to walk me through.
2019 has shown me so many lows.
She was like, girl, no, you gonna be fine, girl. I was so that's
not the only thing I said to you though.
Well, I got 2 things that you said. One so you were like this one thing when I was about to go back to work that you said, which I'll share in a minute. But you were like, no, you're gonna be fine. You were just so calm.
I was at my lowest. Look, you can't get no lower than where I was.
You were so calm. And I was this was a career that at the time I had decided it was no longer my thing. Right? So it
broke your heart.
It broke my heart in the sense of I had worked so hard
to get there.
Yeah,
watch it be pulled from you.
And I was finally in a space like consulting for me was going to work. I was like, look, I'm going to take a 6-month contract. I'm going to take 6 months off, put all my money, energy, time into what I want to do, AKA the exchange place.
Hey.
And really thought like, this was God's plan. And God was like, oh, it ain't going to go this way. But you know what's funny? So I spent 7.5, almost 8 months out of work. And grief is not the word. I mean,
you were like in a bad place. I was scared for you. I was like, Deb. Like,
I was scared.
And everybody's like, is Deb okay? I'm like, she's fine.
If I'm honest to the listeners, especially because we're talking about mental health, that is one of the deepest, darkest places that I have ever been. To have to tell my children no to things. My son was graduating. He was about to get his car, to have to use his car money that I had saved for rent, to like, it was something that it was unheard of for them. No matter how I had to or what I had to sacrifice for them, they never got to see it. Yeah. But I was so low that I couldn't hide it.
Yeah. And that's a good thing, though. To give your kids that, yes, you have to give your children transparency. Listen, I don't have it today. Yeah. Like, I had to learn that too. Like, I went through that as a mom too. Like, when I got separated, now I'm a single mom with 2 kids. Yeah. And it was not easy at all. It was very hard. And it's okay to be honest with our children, because what we don't want to do is build this cloud of perfection for them. And then they enter the world thinking like, everything's okay. It doesn't matter. Like, even though mom is almost killing herself just to make me happy. No, that's not life.
I love that place. So though it's the hardest place, it's the place that I really was seeking therapy because I was so low. I was crying every day, night. You had the store then, so I would come there. We would do movie day. I would come
every Tuesday.
Get me a chunky monkey.
Shout out to the best movie from
shout out to that chunky monkey if y'all ain't have it. If she put it back on the menu, I'm telling you, you gotta go. Next month.
Put you.
But we would have movie Tuesday, just trying to keep myself here, if I'm honest, because I was really so low, grieving a job that. It was crazy. And I couldn't find work, which was the crazy.
I know. You was like, oh, I'm not even finding a job. I'm like, but what I will say, I told you. Because especially like around this time too, I was already in full-time entrepreneurship. And full-time entrepreneurship is ugly. It's not beautiful. It's not beautiful all the time.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful place where I am now. Thank God.
But it's a process.
It's a process. It's a valley of highs and lows. But those hard, dark moments are what God will put you through to see if you are equipped for the purpose. Yeah. And I remember telling you, you were just really pressed on working. And I was like, Deb, utilize this time now to focus on the things you have, whether it was She Prays, you wanted to be an author, you wanted to do the podcast. Yeah, you wanted to do the podcast. And I kept telling you, I said, I'm telling you, just use this time to focus on your gifts and what it is that you want to do in the entrepreneur world. And at some point, you'll find a job that's going to afford you to do the entrepreneurship journey. You're just going to be using that to...
Yeah. I remember you saying that. What's so funny is I wish I was in, and this is the thing about grief, I think I wish I was in a mindset to really have received that. And though I received it, I don't think I was in a place to really full force do that. Because I think back,
I'm like, it's scary though to do that.
Listen,
Dia had to come.
Dia got you.
Shout out to King Dia, because King Dia came the day. I remember she was the only person I called. I was like, Dia, I lost my job.
Yeah.
But I wanted to. I did want to lose it, but I wasn't ready yet.
But I wasn't ready.
I
Not
wasn't
quite
ready yet.
Not quite yet.
But I remember she came to my house. She gifted me this beautiful box with a card. It was just, the card just made me like stream tears because it was like, you were built for this. And she always promised me, I'll help you to be the mogul you want to be. So she always has helped me, and we pour into one another in that way because we're power forces. Love Dia. We are power forces, so we pour into each other that way. But I needed that, and in that moment that you were going through that, it instantly pulled me back to what Dia had to do to push me up to feel that. And I always kind of feel like if somebody does that for you, you have to give that back to somebody else.
And I really thank you for that, because I often think about, I did write my book during that time.
You did.
My first one, which ain't been released, but y'all wait a little while. It's coming. But I wrote my book in that time. I didn't do a lot of podcast stuff because I felt like I couldn't concentrate.
You had a certain vision though for that podcast.
I had, and I say this often, I had a specific, not a certain, a specific vision.
Specific. I was gonna let you have it.
A specific.
I'm gonna stick beside you.
Is that your friend?
I'm gonna stick beside you.
But there was a specific structure that I wanted for the podcast that I was just stuck on.
Yeah.
And that wasn't working. At that time, it had fallen completely apart. I didn't have my dad. I didn't have a job. I just felt like
you were losing everything.
I felt like I was losing everything. I couldn't, the person that I would normally call to or could help is no longer here. It just was and people that I thought.
You had transitional relationships.
I was about to say, I lost a lot of relationships that I thought were solid relationships that I thought people really cared and really loved me and were going to, like, that I had been there in their bad times, that they were going to be there in mine. So I think I had grief on all ends.
Yeah,
I was grieving a job.
You were going through a lot of things.
At one time,
oh my God, it was a lot. Honestly, I'm not going to get too personal, but even like texting you, I would feel heavy. Like I didn't feel good. I didn't, as a friend, I didn't. I just felt like, yo, it was nothing I could say or do. But sometimes that's what I want to tell people too, to the listeners. When it comes to grief, sometimes you just need to be present. Sometimes it doesn't mean I couldn't find encouraging words, and I'm an encourager. I'm the person that tells everybody to go for it. But
I think that looked different.
It did,
because if I'm honest, of course, it not just
you
but
I
had really solid people around me during that time. But I think it's something that I really had to tread through myself.
Yeah, it wasn't for everybody. You're right.
And I don't think that, like Siobhan or you or Tamara, I don't think that anyone could have pulled me out of that. I really feel like that was a pivotal and a transformational point for me, that I had to grieve all of those things at once. So it was a lot.
And you were in the thing for me, it was kind of crazy because I was in a very dark place even at that time myself. But you had always been, so I'm going to tell the listeners a little secret. That something that Deb did that blessed me tremendously. I've never shared this with anybody. So you were always my encourager. Like Deb, like before Amber could see what BPN Focus was, Deb was like, yo, you on to something. You this, you that. She encouraged me. Deb dropped like $500 towards my business. And just yo, I believe in you type thing.
Yeah,
I had never, I had another friend who did something like that too when I opened the store. But I had never had someone, obviously, because we had a newer friendship, right? I had never had, you know what I mean? saying? I had never had like somebody come into my life and just like believe in me like that. Like, cause it just wasn't met with just money. Cause sometimes anybody could drop money towards you, right? But it was met with compassion, encouragement. So I felt helpless that I couldn't help you. I was like, God, just and honestly, but
I think you did help me.
No, I did, but you know what? I always feel indebted to you in that sense. Like, not because I have to, just because the way you showed up for me, you already know that. Okay, another secret for the listeners: if I ever become a multimillionaire, guess who's gonna be a millionaire too? But you know what I'm saying? Like, it's. You were that for me, and you were that for a lot of other people. And I know a lot of your grief and your disappointment came with feeling that you can't be in the position to help like that because of where you were.
Yes.
I know that's what a lot of it came from. And I was trying to tell you, even in those moments, like, Deb, it's okay. Like, you, and I always told you too, I was like, Deb, like, you show so many people, I know, you show so many people love, that love is going to be reciprocated back to you. And I just wanted you to understand that although you were losing something, you were gaining something and seeing yourself in another way that you were just committed to that part of you.
You know what?
And you don't have to be. You're not going to always be that person, and it's okay.
I wouldn't change what I had to go through.
No,
you
shouldn't. No.
It bridged a gap, even with my children, like being able to tell them the truth and being able to say, listen, I don't have it.
Yeah.
And I can't.
Yeah.
Like that was very new. It forced me probably to be the most transparent I had ever been with them. It birthed where we are now, that we can sit down.
And shout out to Deb, to her and her boys. They are just like, if you ever be around them, it's just so beautiful to watch. They love her. They'll tell her anything. Kids. Like,
I really love my kids.
The coolest ever, Jaden. They love you. And they appreciate you no matter what level you're on. Your oldest son wants to take care of you.
Yeah. No, I know that. I think it was a eye-opening experience. The grief part of it really, really had to happen. And even though, of course, I went back to work, in the mindset and the lens that I went back to work is so different that there's days I'm at work that I wish I had those 7-8 months back. Because now I've changed and I've grieved those losses. I've come to a place where I could really, really say, like, nah, I'm good. So if tomorrow,
because the happiness is not just the money or nothing like that.
I might shout.
Listen, hallelujah.
And whatever God has in store, but there's so much more that I discovered about me through that. Yeah. Now I thought this episode was gonna be me not making you cry. And here I am.
You know what's funny? I will say, like, honestly, when it comes to my mom, like, I dropped a few tears last night because I'll actually pull up like what I found. Like last night, like, oh man, if you ever want to just break down, just go to Facebook and freaking look at your memories.
I know your memories, right?
But something that my mom said that actually brought me to tears last night. She said, this was 6 years ago. This was the last birthday that I celebrated with my mom. And she said, to my baby girl, the joy of my life, the one who keeps me young, vibrant, and motivated, thank you. I love you. And I remember when my mom was passing away, Mom was in hospice, and she always kept telling everybody, I'm not worried about Amber. Amber is going to be fine.
Wow.
She used to always say that. She was very much more so worried about my brother, worried about my dad. But there was something in me that she saw. And I remember there was a time too, my mom said, if we traded places, we would be good. Meaning that she had left so much for me here. Like, in the time that I've had, like, I'm blessed. I mean, listen, my mom died when I was 28 years old. I'm extremely blessed. My mom got to see me become a woman. I got married. I had 2 beautiful children. She got to meet and see both of my children, which I'm very fortunate that happened. That was my confirmation. Like, you get what I'm saying? Because a lot of people leave the earth and they like, well, like, especially if they're like at odds with somebody, right? They're like, that person loved me. My mom left the world, and I literally felt like I'm okay.
Yeah.
So like there's been times, don't get me wrong, and again, my grief does show up differently. I tell people all the time, like, I do have detachment issues. Those are areas that I'm still working on, because at the end of the day, nobody can ever take that place. I have to remind myself that all the time, but I also do use that as a way to just let people know too, like, you are entitled to love. You're entitled to feeling safe. You're entitled to people treating you well. Like, you get what I'm saying? Yeah. You're entitled to choose those type of people around you. So I don't feel bad sometimes about my detachment issues. But back to what I was saying is that I am okay. And I dropped a few tears when I read that last night, but I'm good because I have peace. Like, I have peace, and I am thankful. No, like what I said at the beginning of the show, there are people who are motherless, who have never experienced what I don't want to say true, but like what a mother's love is like, right? Yeah. I don't even think I could uphold to my own children how my mom was with me. Yeah. I try. My mom was shout out to these Geminis. People always giving Geminis a rough time.
My dad was a Gemini.
I love Geminis.
My dad was a June Gemini.
Listen, Geminis, because they be trying to play y'all. I love Geminis. I love them. One thing I loved about my mom, and that I'm learning as an adult, straight shooters. What I'm learning as an adult, and I'm okay with, right? She used to always say, Amber, you know, if you have one good friend in this world, you'd be a lucky person. My mom was very good, and I'm trying to get to this point where she loved people. People loved her. Literally, there was no sitting or standing room at my mom's funeral. Yeah. It was absolutely crazy. Like, a lot of people that she touched, and she did that while keeping her own peace, keeping her own space, and creating her own boundaries. So there
must be a Gemini thing.
Yeah, because I used to be like, Mom, you never have company, you never have friends over and stuff. She'd be like, girl, let me tell you something.
I love your mom, and I never got to meet her.
She'd be like, Dad's favorite thing is they ain't coming here.
They ain't coming here.
That's what Dad said about her house in a heartbeat.
They ain't coming here.
And that house is so comforting and warming too. I could come there. I'm sorry, y'all.
You could come there, but they ain't coming here.
They ain't coming here. But my mom was like that. She'd be like, Amber, you know, because people is, my mom was not. My mom was that girl. Like, she taught me to give people compliments, say nice things, be loving, do all of these things, because you never know whose life you can touch. And even I found people, she was like, these people don't like me, and as nice as I am or whatever I am. And I learned even so much in that. Like, I did not appreciate the lessons then, but those things play back to me now. I'm like, you know, Mommy, I get exactly what you mean. Yeah. You know, maybe you don't have to have all of these crazy, like, because I don't, as much as everybody know Amber, I only have like how many people close to me, like close. It's very few. It's only few people that I trust with my heart and my feelings and my mind. And as I'm getting older, because there were people that I did trust that turned out not to be trustworthy of that. But it taught me, and that's okay. Listen, I don't regret love I give to people. They needed it. Yeah. You know, and my mom kind of taught me that. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like that, like my mom just dropped so many dimes on me. She be like, listen, you don't have to kill people with kindness. Just be kind. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, you don't have to kill people with anything that you just are. Like, that you just be. So I honestly, some people a lot of people reached out to me. Shout out to my friends and my family who did reach out to me to make sure I'm good. I'm good, y'all. Yeah. Like, I'm not in the sense that I'm trying to be strong. I'm really good because the peace that I have in my heart for my mom, I honor her every day, and my legacy, what I do, how I'm trying to change lives, how I am trying to make women and Black women aware of their health and the things that we go through and the things that we need to do to practice self-care, respect, and all of that stuff. I'm living my purpose. Yeah. I told my daughter, I said, listen, I'm going to leave you with something. I'm going to leave you with this business. I guarantee you, if I die tomorrow, this business will blow up 3 times.
So in that, Ann, let me ask you this as we wrap up. Mm-hmm. If you had words of wisdom, whether it's something that came from your mom or something you want to share with the listeners to leave them with the grieving process,
I would just say, just go through. You can't control it. You really can't. You don't know what something is going to feel like until you feel it. Yeah. Allow yourself. I have been through some hard things. I've been through losing my mother, divorce, being homeless at a point. I mean, I say homeless because it wasn't my home. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Losing my store. I suffered significant loss. However, the God that I serve, you know what I'm saying, always has something greater for me. So for me, the best thing that I can say is just go through. It's not supposed to be beautiful. It's not supposed to be pretty. It may not feel good all the time, but there in those valleys, you will absolutely get to the mountaintop. Yeah. And if you want some stories to make you believe in God, I got a ton of them for you.
I know, she does. I think the one thing I want to leave the listeners with that my dad's death taught me, losing my job taught me, is don't die empty. Well, I shouldn't say don't die empty. Make sure that you die empty and don't die full.
Yeah.
Full of potential.
More life.
Full of visions and dreams that you didn't try. And my dad, if he didn't teach me anything, he taught me not to go to my grave full, but that empty is the way to leave here, and to leave it all here. So that's all I have.
I love it.
I love it, and I love you.
I love you.
I love you. Today was not expected.
It wasn't.
It really wasn't.
But you know, it's always going to be a laugh.
I was going to say, it's supposed to go a little left, but it went right.
Listen, my mother would not at all want me to be here soaking and crying.
Yeah.
Listen,
I didn't even expect to cry, so
yeah. I mean, you did. You had me kind of, you had a little thug crying. I had white my fast though. Y'all ain't see it. Y'all ain't see my tears fall. But
I love
always,
you.
I love
and
you too.
I pray that this whole month has been a blessing to
it
people.
Has. Oh, thank you for
health.
covering some of those
that
topics.
topics.
Those were tough topics, but they were real.
They were real stuff.
I appreciate that.
Y'all tap in for next month, because next month is my dad's birthday and Father's Day. And we are talking about the unheard voice of a man. And we have all men guests on here, and we about to go into relationship, why men leave.
Dang, I can't come all June because of the men. Dang, I'm gonna be listening now. I'm gonna be a good listener.
She'll be back. She'll be back. So we love you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for tapping in, and we'll see you next week.
That's it. Grief.